Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for creating Superfans at your MSP. My name is Seth Wilson. I'm the new-ish marketing guy here at TimeZest. Today, I'm joined by author, speaker, and superfan expert, Brittany Hodak. Thanks for joining us, Brittany.
Thanks for having me, Seth. I'm so excited to be here and can't wait to talk to everybody and get to know all of the MSPs in the audience.
Absolutely. And also joining us today is TimeZest CEO, Gerwai Todd. How's it going, Gerwai?
Good, thanks, Seth.
So oftentimes, people see the use of scheduling apps like TimeZest as a way to save time, and we certainly do too. However, we believe that even more important than saving time is the impact it has on your clients' experience with you as an MSP. Well, you can assign a price tag to saving time. Creating advocates that tell their friends and colleagues about your business is priceless, which is why we're here today to discuss how MSPs can create exceptional client experiences that turn loyal clients into raving fans. Any MSP can tell you how important it is to not just have loyal clients, but for those clients to go spread the word about what you do and why their friends and colleagues should hire you to address their IT needs. To start today, we're going to be giving Brittany the floor for an interactive presentation about creating these kinds of advocates and what she calls superfans. She's worked across many industries in marketing, was the chief experience officer for experience.com, and literally wrote the book on superfans. She's been traveling the MSP conference circuit this year, talking to MSPs about the importance of turning their clients into lifelong advocates. And we're thrilled to have her on with us today. After Brittany gives her presentation, we'll get the treat of hearing a conversation with Brittany and Gerwai about how MSPs specifically create superfans. And we'll be taking your questions at the end. So feel free to drop those in the Q&A section and feel free to make comments as we go in the chat. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Brittany. Please, Brittany, take it away.
Thank you so much, Seth. I'm so happy to be here and so excited to get to talk to everyone. Go ahead and tell me, where are you zooming in from today? Where is everybody located around the world? I'm in Franklin, Tennessee, which is just south of Nashville.
Yeah, I'm in Winter Haven, Florida, where it's just starting to become bearable. The air's just gotten a little bit less like you've just taken a shower and you're in the bathroom.
Well, yes, I am familiar with that feeling. Oh, we've got people from all over. Terry, thank you for joining from Ontario. Andrew, thank you for staying up late to hang out with us in Berlin, Long Island, Saginaw, LA. Well, thank you all for being here. We are going to have a lot of fun over the next hour and a half, and I'm going to be talking about my favorite subject in the world, which is turning more of your customers into superfans. Now, I'll never forget when I saw this next quote because I thought it really put everything into perspective. It's from a gentleman named Shiv Singh, who's one of my favorite marketers. He's worked across a lot of different verticals and industries, and he says, and I co-sign on this idea, that the purpose of a business is to create a customer who creates customers. And as MSPs, if you make that your North Star, if you say how many of the people who work with us are referring new customers to us, think about that, what that means for your business. Think about how much easier and more fun everything gets if you have a steady stream of qualified, engaged prospects who want to work not with any MSP, but with you. So today we're going to talk about the roadmap to that reality and what you can continue doing or start doing to help create more of those customer advocates who are out there working like an unpaid sales force and sales army for you all the time. Now, I'll never forget when I was applying for my very first trademark. I was 26 years old. I was launching my first business. It was a marketing agency working with entertainers. And my trademark attorney said, okay, is this a product business or a service business? And I said, why would you ask me that? Like, what a silly question. It's both. And he said, well, you've got to pick one or the other. And I said, says who? And he said, the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And I said, well, you can tell the USPTO that they are wrong and flawed in their thinking because there's no such thing as just a service company or just a product company. And I know that MSPs, you literally have the word service in your name, but I want to encourage you to begin to think about the fact that now in 2023, when we have more access to technology than ever at any point in human history, There's no such thing as a service business or a service company. In fact, we are all in the experience business because products and services have long since blurred into that one all important category. We are living in an experience economy. In fact, 86% of people are willing to pay more for the exact same product or service if they know they're going to have a great experience. So thinking about products or services is an outdated way to think about your business. Now, we all know what it feels like to be a customer of somewhere that provides us with an amazing experience. Go ahead and drop in the chat. Tell me about some of the brands that you love, somewhere that maybe you'll drive further or pay more to work with. This could be a service professional that you've worked with for years. It could be a B2C brand. Yes. LXS Publix. I 100% agree with you there. I drive by 2 Krogers to get to the Publix that I shop at because I know it's going to be a great experience, especially if I have my kiddos with me and they get that free cookie or free banana. Yes, Garmin, another great example. We all know what it feels like. And on the flip side, we all know what it feels like to not have that great experience. We've all walked into a store and left before we made a purchase because of the way we felt, because of the way somebody greeted us or didn't greet us. And that changes the way we think, not just about that employee, but about that entire brand, because our brains have not evolved to think of companies. We don't think of companies in terms of, a logo or a collection of people, we do think of them as a collection of people. Our brains have evolved to think about people, not companies. So every single employee is in the experience department. And regardless of the industry that you are in the experience business. I had somebody say to me not that long ago, only fat people run on treadmills. People who are in shape run outside. And that would have been like eyebrow raising enough coming from anyone. But it was especially surprising because the person who said it to me was the guy delivering my treadmill. I was like, what are you talking about? And he just kept doubling down. He was like, treadmills are terrible for your knees. They lull you into a false sense of security because you think, I'll have the chocolate cake for dessert. I'm going to get on the treadmill when I get home. And then you never do. You just like put all of your clothes on it and it takes up space in your house. It was crazy. I would have thought he worked for a third-party delivery company, but he said, you know what? I've worked here for 11 years. I bet I could get one of these things for free, but you would never catch me with one in my house. Then after like 20 minutes of him setting it up, he said, hey, I just keep thinking about something. You ain't that fat. He said that fat. You remember very specifically. He said, you ain't that fat. I bet you got a fat husband. And I was like, what are you talking about? No, we have 2 little kids and we want to be able to work out when it's 1,000,000 degrees outside or raining or snowing or the kids are asleep. Everything is experience. And regardless of where somebody is at in their journey of working with your MSP, I want you to always remember you're in the experience business. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is the onboarding experience and how you can remove friction and set yourself apart to show these brand new customers and these prospective customers that you're not just another commodity provider. You are a category of one. You are in a league all of your own, because the opportunities to create amazing experiences or even experiences that just stand out a little bit are all around us. We all get Amazon packages all the time, right? Go ahead and tell me in the chat if you've gotten this one yet that says, oh my God, Becky, look at this box. When I got this one for the first time, I couldn't stop laughing. I took this picture, I immediately posted it online. It's a pattern interrupt. It's something that goes above and beyond what we are expecting to experience. Now, this is particularly great because it's advertising Amazon Music, but it's a reminder of the idea that experience is everywhere all around us. Kevin, you may get it soon and you may see some of the other fun ones that they've rolled out. I've taken pictures of a few of them. They're in my camera roll, but I'm not going to ruin the surprise. But I want you all to remember that in an experience economy, there's an important paradox that's true, and it's this. Experience is everything. It's the number one thing that sets you apart from everyone else in your space. It's what makes you unlike every other MSP out there competing for the same business. It's what future-proofs you against people who may try to join your space in the future. But the inverse of that is true as well. Everything is experience. Every touch point, every time you're in front of a customer, either in their office or online, from the ticket process to talking to someone on the phone, all of it is part of the experience. I called the Nashville Zoo a few weeks ago because I was trying to get more information about an event that they were having. And the hold music wasn't some like weird elevator rock from the 70s. It was zoo sounds that they recorded at their zoo. So somebody would say, "Oh, now we're gonna listen in on our flamingos. We have 126 flamingos at the Nashville Zoo," and you heard the flamingo sounds. And then it went on to the monkeys and the giraffes. It was so cool that when the woman like picked up the phone to help me, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're ready for me already?" I was having so much fun on hold, and she was like, "Yeah, everybody says that." Everything is experience. Every touch point is an opportunity to turn a customer into a super fan. Now, I define a super fan like this. I think a super fan is a customer or stakeholder who is so delighted by their experience with you that they become an enthusiastic advocate. There's three parts to that definition. The first, we're talking about customers or stakeholders. This is someone who has actually been through the customer process with you, either themselves or as a partner who's worked alongside people that are customers. This is someone who can vouch with high credibility about what it feels like to actually work with you. The second part, they're delighted by their experience. We're going to talk a little bit about how to do that here in just a few minutes. It's an experience that they enjoyed and they want to have again. And then the third part of that definition, they're an enthusiastic advocate. What I mean by this is when someone that they care about asks for a recommendation or a referral, they will be likely to give it. When they change jobs, they will be likely to say, "Hey, let me tell you about this great company that we worked with in my last position." In other words, these superfan customers are customers who create more customers, just like we talked about at the top of the presentation. And the really cool thing about living in an experience economy, and especially living in an experience economy in this day and age, is that every single one of your customers is an influencer. I'm an influencer, you're an influencer. Think about the fact that you have dozens, if not hundreds of people in your life who will make a decision about working with a company or not based solely on what you say. When you share your opinion on social media or in person over drinks or dinner, it holds weight. So much so that it can sway someone into taking an action or not taking an action. Every single customer is an influencer, and that's why we want to turn as many of them as we can into super fans, because those referrals are so important to growing your business. The more advocates you have, the less you have to spend on advertising. The more relevant you are when you can go from commodity provider to category of one. But if you want to do this, if you want to create super fans, being good is not going to cut it. You've got to be super. SUPER. This, my friends, is the supermodel. This is what I write about in my book, Creating Superfans. And this is how I have categorized all of the research that I've done over the past 20 years into what makes customers over-index in their affinity for brands and companies. SUPER. This is a mnemonic device to help you remember to do these 5 things, because if you're still thinking that you're in a service economy and using a service mindset, you're going to miss out. So SUPER, we're going to talk about these things right now. S, start with your story. U, understand your customer story. P, personalize. E, exceed expectations. And R, repeat. You can think about these kind of like nesting dolls. Each one builds on the one that comes before, and you've truly got to think about and do them in this order if you want to find the most success. So first up, we've got S, start with your story. And when I say start with your story, I don't mean lead with your story. I don't mean you should be out there like trying to tell everybody about your company the second you meet them. What I mean is that everything has to originate from your story. Because consciously or not, everyone considering hiring your company is asking themselves one question. Why you? Why should I care? What makes you better than every single other MSP in the world? And if you can't clearly and concisely answer that question and haven't written it in a way that every single one of your employees can also speak to as well, then you're going to be missing out. In fact, if you can't convince a prospect that you're the absolute best choice because of these things, what's the obvious conclusion that they're going to come to? That you must not be the best partner, right? So what is your superpower? What makes you different from every other MSP? What is it that you specialize in and you would go toe to toe with anyone? If you haven't thought about this in a while, I encourage you to think a bunch about it, figure it out. Ask my buddy Seth to send you a copy of my book, Creating Superfans, because until you have clarity on your story, you're never going to be able to compete in a space where you are seen as the category leader or category of one. You're going to be in that commodity space, which means you're competing on things like price, timing, and the other commodity-based things that we don't want people making decisions on. Lean into your superpower, your uniqueness. Once you've started there, you will find that there are opportunities to tell your story everywhere, all around you. Just like the Amazon box example, just like the zoo example of waiting on hold. There are touch points all around you. Here's a fun example from the Nike store. I had my kids there a couple of weeks ago. We were looking for new shoes for them. And on the floor, this real estate that had been used for nothing had this really cool area to where you could see how your feet measured up to the size of the feet of Nike athletes like Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James and Serena Williams. Such a fun way to connect Nike's story to ours. Because here's the thing with Superfans. They're created at the intersection of your story and every customer's story. Now, we're always telling our story. We're always communicating no matter what. I'm reminded of that every time I drive by this Sherwin-Williams paint store by my house. I hope you guys can see it on your screens. Every single time I drive by the store, I'm like, don't you have one job? Like, isn't paint the only thing Sherwin-Williams does? And yet it is hard to imagine a store that needs to be painted more than this one. Like, maybe paint your store, maybe even paint your sign, because I just don't get the vibe that they care a whole heck of a lot about paint at this Sherwin-Williams. So we're going to start with our story. Next up in our quest to be super, we're going to understand our customer story, truly understand it. Teddy Roosevelt said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's the idea of empathy and authority together as a 1-2 punch. And so quick, we want to lead with that authority. But if we don't take the time to truly showcase the empathy, the authority doesn't mean so much. Maybe you remember the first time you saw a teacher outside of school. I know I do. And it blew my mind. I was like, wait, they let her leave school? Totally freaked me out. I had never thought as a 6-year-old about the fact that my teacher existed outside of the classroom. And it's a silly example, but I think it's a relevant one because so many people as adults make that same mistake. We don't think about the fact that our customers have these full lives and businesses that exist even beyond their relationship with us. But we've got to do that to make sure that people know that we care about them. They're more than just another number, more than just another customer. Now, when we've got clarity on both our story and every customer story, that's where the fun part starts. I told you those super fans are created at the intersection of your stories and theirs. You're going to be able to go to the third pillar of the supermodel, which is P, personalize. Now, go ahead and tell me in the chat whether or not you've heard of something called the platinum rule. We all grew up with the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. All right, LXS has heard of it. We all grew up with the golden rule, which is a great rule, but a guy by the name of Dr. Tony Alessandra back in the 90s said, you know what? following the golden rule is not good enough when it comes to your customers. If you want to take care of those customers, you've got to treat them not the way you want to be treated or the way you think they should want to be treated, but the way they want to be treated. Because not everyone wants to be treated the same way as you. Not everyone has the same preferences and beliefs and backgrounds and access to information. So we've got to treat them all the way they want to be treated. Now, a lot of times when I talk about this, people ask if I'm talking about high tech or high touch. And the answer is both. Because if you want to truly personalize interactions, high tech isn't enough, and neither is high touch. When you combine them both, that's where you can create high impact. So using tools like TimeZest that allow you to create an amazing customer experience from the onset, from the beginning, are really important. Not only do they make you look more professional, not only do they enhance the customer experience for your prospects and customers, but they also free up more of your time for high touch activities. When I fly a lot for my job, I travel around. I think I've done like 48 keynotes in person this year. As Seth mentioned, I've done quite a few for my friends in the MSP community. So I am always on airplanes. And I love now that when you fly, regardless of the airline you're flying, they give you information. You get text messages and push notifications with the right information to the right flyer at the right time, letting you know when check-in has started, when boarding has started, what gate you're at, what you need to do to get from one gate to another if you're connecting. That high-tech information is an example of something that would never be possible without automation. However, some of the most meaningful parts of flying, the things that truly create superfans, are the things that can't yet be automated, the high-touch activities. 2 weeks ago, my husband and I were flying with our 2 young sons, and the flight attendant looked at my boys and said, "Have you guys ever been in a cockpit?" And she whisked them into the cockpit to meet the pilots and sit down and pretend they were flying their airplanes. And they had such a great time. And it was all because that American Airlines flight attendant took the care to go above and beyond. She personalized our experience. Another example from an airline, the first time we flew with my son as a lap infant, the ticket gate agent had everyone that was working at the Southwest ticket counter sign a certificate to my son, welcoming him on board, saying how excited they were to have him flying. Things like this truly exceed your customers' expectations. And that's the E in our supermodel. One of my favorite things to talk about is this idea of intentional experience design, bringing intentionality to every part of your business, asking yourself, how does it feel for my customers? In this moment, in this experience, how do they feel? Because the reality is there's really only 3 types of interactions we ever have as customers or as people. At the end of every interaction, we're going to feel better, worse, or exactly the same. That's it. What's your ticketing process like right now? What's your meeting process like right now? Is it easy for those very busy professionals who've entrusted their businesses to you to get to you? How do we make things feel good? The reality is the majority of the interactions that we have as people are neutral. We have thousands and thousands of experiences a day. Process, move on, process, move on. Using intentional experience design and thinking about things through a customer-centric lens, you can look for opportunities to elevate those neutral moments into positive ones, and maybe even some of those negative ones into neutral or positive ones, because it only takes some intentionality and a focus on your customers. This is a picture I took last summer at the Legoland Resort in Florida. I saw a few of you are joining from Florida. If you haven't yet been to Legoland, it is so much fun. I highly recommend going if you have kids or grandkids. This is my son, Kato, standing in an elevator. And as you can tell, it is a party in that elevator. They've got the mirror ball, the lights, the disco decals on the walls, and every time the elevator doors closed, it was a party. It was like ABBA and Dancing Queen. It wasn't until the 3rd day we stayed at that resort that I realized that was the slowest elevator that I've ever been on in my entire life. Like the whole song Dancing Queen would play between the lobby and the 5th floor where we were staying. But it took me like 3 days to even notice. And then once I noticed, I didn't even care because they had taken something that would have been annoying, a slow elevator, and turned it into a magical experience. I promise you right now, there are some slow elevators in your business. But instead of throwing your hands up in the air and saying like, well, we can't replace the elevator or we can't make the elevator go faster, find ways to bring intentionality and customer centricity to that moment. If you can't make the elevator go faster, how can you make it feel faster? How can you use creativity to enhance that experience for your customers? Now, once you fix all your slow elevators, you're not done. You got to keep them top of mind, because the fifth and final pillar of our supermodel is R, repeat. Elizabeth Arden said, repetition makes reputation, and reputation makes customers. And in an experience economy, you have got to constantly be looking for ways to up your game, to innovate before you have to stay ahead of your competitors, to use products like TimeZest that are going to give you that competitive edge and competitive advantage, because your customers aren't just comparing their experience with you to the best ones they've had with your direct competitors. They're comparing it to the best experiences they've had ever, anywhere. SUPER, that's it. That's the supermodel. We're going to start with your story. We're going to understand our customer stories, personalize, exceed expectations, and repeat. I want to show you quickly how all of these come together into one. These are my two dogs, Bandit and Bear. They're both rescue dogs. Bear has a very sensitive stomach, which we later found out is something that's like pretty common for dogs that are part Rottie, as my guy is. So we were back and forth to the vet, trying to find the right dog food. Finally, the vet suggested this prescription dog food. I did not know prescription dog food was even a thing, but I found it online at this website called Chewy.com. Go ahead and tell me in the chat if you are a fan of Chewy.com, or maybe you've never even heard of it. Anything is fine. I'd never heard of it before I shopped at Chewy, but I found this prescription dog food. As you see, I've got circled there. It said, we need a copy of your pet's prescription before we ship this. So I sent an email, very simple email, with the prescription information. I just said, hello, below and attached, please find this prescription. Thanks, Brittany. So that's the massive fan. Lindsay loves them. Yes, they have great experiences. This was my very first time ordering from Chewy, so I thought it would probably be a couple days before I heard anything back. But less than 10 minutes after sending this first email, here's the response I got. It said, hi there, Brittany. Thank you so much for sending Bear's prescription directly. I've applied it to your order and everything's set. Once it ships out, you'll get an email confirmation and a tracking number. If you need anything else, give us a bark. We're here 24/7 to lend a helping paw. Ciao, ciao for now, Kelly R. Now, Kelly did a lot of great things in this email. Number one, she used Bear's name, because I wasn't buying dog food for any dog. I was getting dog food for my dog, the cutest and most important dog on the planet. Just like your customers aren't looking for solutions for any business, they're looking for solutions for theirs, the one that matters more than any other. Kelly told me exactly what to expect. She set my expectations and she threw in a few dog puns to make the email honestly funner than it needed to be, right? She turned that neutral experience into a positive one. I didn't really need to reply to the email. She gave me everything I needed to know, but it felt almost rude not to. So I just sent back this quick note. Perfect. Thanks so much for the quick response, Kelly. I really appreciate it. And so does Bear. Have a great day, Brittany. And I thought that was the end of it. I did not think Kelly was going to reply. I thought we were going to just like go our separate ways, but nope, she wrote back again. She said, hi there, Brittany. Absolutely. It's our pleasure. We're so thankful every day for each and every wonderful member of our Chewy family like you. Please tell Bear we said hello. And if you ever happen to snap any cute photos of him enjoying his Chewy goodies, feel free to send them our way. We always love meeting our VIPs. Very important pause. We're here 24/7, 365, rain or shine. If you ever need a helping paw or a listening ear, simply bark in our direction. We're always happy to hear from you. Over and snout, Kelly R. Yes, a positive experience, as Erin says in the chat. This email is a masterclass in 100 words. She takes me from someone who doesn't have any opinion about this place and is just trying to buy dog food to someone who's like, oh my gosh, who are these people? What is this company? I have to know more. Before I've even gotten that first shipment, I'm like, wow, what's going on with this Chewy company? Just like you can differentiate yourself from other MSPs even before the onboarding process begins. Everything is experience. The words that you say, the language that you use, the tone and the style and how you share your story and connect with your customers. A lot of you in the chat told me that you shop at Chewy, so you have definitely gotten some cards. They love sending cards. They love surprise and delight. They let you know when it's your pet's birthday, anniversaries, holidays, so many things. And that's why so many customers like me shift all of their spending over. Now my food and the toys and the treats and everything else are on auto ship. So Chewy boxes show up and I'm like, oh, I must be about to run out of heartworm medicine. This is perfect. I don't even have to think about it anymore. One day I looked outside and saw a small Chewy box and thought it must be time for heartworm medicine, but I opened it up and instead found these hand-painted portraits of Bandit and Bear with a note thanking me for being a Chewy customer. Talk about blowing me away. This is what it means to be so good that your customers can't help but talk about it. And I know that Chewy does this a lot. In fact, from researching them for my book, they send out thousands of painted portraits every single week, but it still feels special to everyone who gets one. I don't care if they've done this for 1 million people. It still matters when they do it for me and my dogs. And your customers will feel the same way when you go above and beyond. They will notice, they will remember, and they will very likely tell people. So I want to encourage you to ask yourselves, what are you doing every single day to turn your customers into superfans? Because when you tell people that you're great, that's just marketing. Everybody does it, including all of your competitors. But when your customers tell their friends and their colleagues that you're great, that is magic. That is when you know that you have future-proofed your business against every other MSP. The testimonials and the referrals will be rolling in, and you will continue to run that sustainable, successful business that you love. Thank you guys so much for letting me talk to you for a while. Now we are going to jump into the Q&A portion of this webinar and make it even more fun.
Thank you so much, Brittany. That was fantastic. And yeah, we're going to be hopping into a little conversation here. Again, if anybody's got some questions, we'll be hopping into a Q&A section right after this. Feel free to leave them in the Q&A section down below. If you want a copy of the book, got a lot of questions on that. Seth at TimeZest.com. Send me your address. We'll get you a copy of the book out. But let's start with you, Gerwai. Brittany's presentation. What did you find most relevant to it in terms of MSPs?
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't we bring Chris on stage at this point too? How does that sound?
That's right. Yeah, Chris Harp of Matson and Isom Technology, a man with a much better beard than my own, out of Chico, California.
Say anything.
And just a fantastic MSP. Chris, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, Seth, it's not a competition. All beards matter.
Yeah, but it's just,
there you go.
It's
competition.
It's so much better.
Hey, Chris, thanks for hanging out with us.
Absolutely, Brittany. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, look, I love listening to Brittany speak. This is my second time hearing her speak. Okay, the last time was in person in an ASCII event, so that was very cool. And each time I feel like I pick up something new, and that's a big reason for doing all of this. The thing that I really focused on in this chat here was Chewy and how it compares to an MSP. Now, I can imagine, look, I'm part of a 17-person company, one of the founders of TimeZest, and we're small. We're not a massive company in any way. And so we have to be very creative in how we spend our time, our resources, and our focus. And you think about Chewy, and you probably imagine that they've got this massive support team, this massive marketing team. And by all means, they do. But what this does for me is it highlights how important it is for us small business owners to build raving fans. Because for me, in my engagements with MSPs over the years, for the past 15 years and through a lot of osmosis, what I have learned is that referral is the #1 way that they grow their business. Now, as they mature, they build sales teams and marketing teams, and they have to kind of crack the code on scaling. But early on, every single case, every single time I've had this conversation, that is how it starts. So one of the things we wanted to do was poll the audience. I think Seth has got that teed up to start the polling process.
I do.
And Chris, like from your perspective as an MSP, how do you feel about that? Is that how you guys grew? Tell us a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're about 40 people now, have grown organically, and it's, speaking to like the customer service side of things, what we've realized is it's so much about not just the time you're working with the customer or the client. It's really from start to finish of the entire experience. Somebody calls up, you want the very first, we call the people who answer our phones, we call them client advocates, right? So that's when the experience starts. Similar to Chewy, it doesn't stop once you receive the package. Once we complete a service ticket, the experience shouldn't stop, and it's about, keeping that relationship going. I walk out of my office, and I have a service desk out here, and I hear people asking about, oh, last time we talked, your uncle was in the hospital. How's he doing? Or is your dog still sick? Is it not sick? And so it's really about the entire experience, not just while you're working with that customer. It's about on the outside of it as well.
Yeah, awesome. What I think about a lot is, so we've got the results here, right? And obviously a very high percentage of the community feels the same way, that they're focused on building their business through referral. So what it makes me think about oftentimes here is there's an early stage in our businesses where we think, especially from an MSP perspective, about hiring that first salesperson. And what this does for me is cause me to kind of pause for a moment and ask myself, have we done enough to build Superfans first? Not that we should do it in any particular order, but the fact is that we've already got the team there to be a sales generation engine if we can just focus on our customers. And we can focus on, and the keyword that I took away from your super, acronym there, Brittany, is exceed expectations. That for me was like, what can we do to wow the customer? What can you do to do something different? What are your thoughts on that, Brittany?
Yeah, I think exceeding expectations is so important because the reality is customer expectations have never been higher. And, I love what Chris said about we've got client advocates. We don't have receptionists. We've got people who are going to ensure that amazing experience. The one thing I would challenge and push back on, Chris said the experience starts the minute they answer that phone. I'm going to say that the experience actually starts even before that when somebody is trying to decide whether or not they're going to call you at all. A huge portion of a customer's journey and customer's experience happens before we ever get involved. They're doing their research, they're reading things online, they're asking friends, they're reaching out to colleagues. So your story and your reputation is actually critically important before you ever have that first conversation. So you've got to do a great job of exceeding a customer's expectation before you even know who they are. While they're in their research phase, you want to exceed their expectations. And then when they make that first phone call, that's when you want to knock it out of the park. That's when you want to take it from a 10 to a 12 to have them say, wow, I don't even need to call these other companies on the list that I've researched, or I don't need to call any more of these companies because I've found the right partner.
Yeah, that's awesome. One other thing that kind of comes to mind with all of this is with regards to how important it is to make that referral process easy. One of the things that I think about a lot is when I reflect on the MSP sales model, like what does it take for someone to convince another person in their community to trust them with all of their IT services? That level is quite high. If you think about it, in our business at TimeZest, you can try it for free. There's a bunch of things you can do to make it really super easy to get started. But when you think about it from an MSP perspective of what it takes, you're really asking them to trust you significantly. And it's not like just turning over the keys to the janitor to be able to have access to the office at night, right? This is a significant level of trust. And obviously that's showing in this referral focused growth-minded arena, right? That part of that referral is because if another business owner in town trusts them with their IT, of course they should at least consider Chris as their MSP provider in that case. And Chris, what is it you guys do to kind of encourage that from a referral perspective amongst your customer base? Do you have any special programs you do there?
It's really changed throughout the years. I think long gone are the days of, win a free iPad for a referral if we bring somebody on. That is so gone. It's been gone for quite some time. It is just all about providing exceptional customer experience. And, we have a saying that's yes, we live in a small town, but the world is pretty small too. And you'd be amazed when you travel places, how many people you run into. It's like, you're just a few bubbles away from a bunch of people kind of coming together. I took a trip to Southern California and ran to somebody who lives like 6 blocks from me. I don't really talk to him. We're a small 6,000 person town. It just happens. And so really it's about providing that exceptional customer experience. And that has a cascading effect way more than, the back of the day of giving away the iPad or a free month of support or something like that. It's just, the word of mouth. It really, really carries.
Awesome.
And something that occurs to me to kind of during this conversation, it is a common concern I've heard from MSPs in the past is, I can't grow right now, or, it's hard to hire up, there's only so fast that I can grow to accommodate, new clients. And I just, encourage everybody out there, right? In the process of how big you want to be, gaining new clients doesn't necessarily mean you have to grow. Gaining a new solid client means you can fire the one that you really dislike. Imagine what your day would be like if everybody that you dealt with was like your best customer. And, that can also be a type of growth that's very important, is growing the type of client base that you want. And so, regardless of whether you're, onboarding, and growing or just onboarding to replace your clients, onboarding is a very important aspect of the client journey in general, right? It's sort of arguably, kind of step 2, right? As Brittany was saying, you want to really impress them during the sales process, but step 2 into creating that super fan. And so kind of wanted to start there, Brittany, in terms of onboarding and especially in the kind of the service related field, what are some of the things that you've seen people do right there?
Well, I love that Jeff said, he's got a small team. There's only 12 of us, no real salesperson, but he thinks everyone is part of the sales team. And that's so critical. That is so true. Every single person on your team, even if their title is onboarding, even if their title is customer support, they are part of the sales team. And I would even go a step further and say they're part of the experience team, because at any moment, any customer is dealing with the chief experience officer of your company, with whomever they're talking to. So that could be somebody that's working as a tech, that could be the CEO, that could be somebody who's only been at the company a week and a half. So having that North Star of what your differentiator is and what amazing service looks like. In terms of onboarding, I would say if you've not yet surveyed the last few customers whom you've onboarded, do so, because some of your best learnings will always come from asking for open feedback of, hey, we want to know what worked really well, but we also want to know what we could have done better. We want to know what we could have done to make this even more frictionless. Like, we want this to be an enjoyable process. One thing that I always advise for onboarding is to make sure somebody has a very clear picture of what's going to happen, because one of the things that adds the most stress to an onboarding process is the sort of cognitive dissonance of like, I know this is important, but I don't know what's happening next. Like, I wonder what it is. So people have all these open loops in their mind. They're wondering, is this the person who's going to be the person I go to? Or is this person going to just onboard me and then hand me off to somebody else on the team? What does it look like? So over communicate up front. This is everybody who's a part of our team. These are the people who are going to be working with you. This is what onboarding is going to look like. It's going to take about this many weeks. We're going to need to talk to people in these different job roles or capacities. We're going to need access to these systems. You're going to need to carve out this much time or this much space to work with us. Show them what the roadmap is and give them the opportunity to choose their own adventure to the extent that they can within certain parameters to help make that a really fantastic collaborative experience. Because if you do it right, you can start to get referrals even before you've onboarded that customer. If somebody has an amazing experience as part of their onboarding process and they're out having drinks with somebody who's, talking about their business, and they say, hey, listen, like, I'm in the process of onboarding with this MSP and it's been great so far. I know they're going to be an amazing partner because this is the smoothest onboarding I've ever had. Just like I was telling people about Chewy before that dog food even arrived based on those emails, you will start to earn those referrals before you've even onboarded that customer if you can really nail that important component.
Absolutely right. Like in terms of, romantic relationships, right? People are normally have the highest opinion of their partner during the courtship, right? Or kind of right around the time that deal is sealed. So yeah, that's absolutely a really important component of it. How about you, Chris? What are some things that you tell your team to keep in mind during onboarding, which can be a variable process with a lot of potential obstacles that pop up along the way?
All right. Well, first thing, I feel like I'm gonna have to sign up for Chewy now because we have an 8-week-old golden retriever that we just picked up on Monday, and I'm like, I don't know if it's the bags under my eyes or the cloudy brain right now and the no sleep, but I'm gonna have to sign up for that now. But so as far as the onboarding, I mean, we are, at our MSP, our managed offering is called Clear, Clear IT, and it's that way for a reason: transparency, right? And it's really about setting and managing expectations. Brittany hit the nail on the head. If you can set and manage those expectations throughout, well, here's what the process looks like. We all know, because we're in the technology industry, right? Every environment's different. Every customer is different. Every client's different. Infrastructures are different. So you want to set and manage those expectations, but what you want to also do is make sure it's going to work for them and make that collaborative process. That's something that we don't see a lot of our either competitors or other MSPs in the area. We don't see them doing that enough, making that a full collaborative process. Our process is not going to work 100% of the time for every single person. We feel like it works pretty well. It's pretty universal, but we want to make sure that we get the buy-in from the client that we're going to be onboarding. So really giving them, putting them in the position to have a say in that. And then again, setting and managing those expectations throughout, that goes a really far way.
And, something I think that's important, Jeff said, sometimes some of us are afraid to ask questions around what we're doing right or wrong. You can't be afraid to ask your customers for feedback. Ask yourself, would you rather them say bad things about you to you or to other people? If they already have feelings about things that aren't going great, you want to find out early when you still have the opportunity to change them. You never want to be the last to know, because if they feel like things aren't going perfectly, they are going to tell people. You just want to make sure you're one of the first people that they tell. And there's a whole body of research and something that I get into in my book. It's something called the service recovery paradox. And this has been studied for decades, and the results always come out the same, which is this: if someone has a negative experience with your brand and you fix it, they statistically will stay with you longer, spend more money, and refer you to more people than if nothing had ever gone wrong in the first place. Now, obviously, this does not mean you should want or try for things to go wrong, especially when you're dealing with data and security and all of the high stakes, very important things that you as MSPs are. But what it does mean is that sometimes when things don't go perfectly and you can step in and say, hey, we're here to fix this. This is what we're going to do to get this train back on the rails. It humanizes you, and it shows that you're willing to go above and beyond. And it gives that client the trust that when things go a little bit wrong in the future, you're going to be there to help things get back on track. So if you find yourself saying, oh, I don't know if I want to talk to people, you can look into the human psychology around surveys and why they work and why they matter and why they're important, and also read about the service recovery paradox. And hopefully that'll give you all of the strength and courage that you need to begin to ask some of those questions in a really automated and scheduled and intentional way. So it's not something that you just like do one time and then forget about forever. Like, you really need to be conscious about the way that you're collecting and acting on feedback from your customers and also from your employees.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's a level of humility, right, mixed with a high level of integrity. And those two things mixed together when you're soliciting that kind of feedback, and people can see that something's been you focused on that negative experience and you've improved that. I mean, what better experience for a customer?
Totally. And Logan just recommended a really great book that was written by a friend of mine named Dennis Snow. He spent like 3 decades at Disney, and she mentioned his book, Lessons from the Mouse, covers on some of those things. So it's a really great book that you should read after you read Creating Superfans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and once we get the clients on board, right, there's inevitably something that's going to go wrong. I think if any MSP on this call knows I've been an MSP before, right? There's just no way to set it up where something won't go wrong, and that's a good thing, right? That's why we're actually all in business. But when it comes to the help desk, when it comes to people actually contacting an MSP for service, what are some of the things, Gerwai, you've noticed? You've peered into hundreds of MSPs at this point and talked to them, coached them, things of that nature. What are some strategies that you've seen on the help desk side that have sort of generated these sort of experiences for clients?
Yeah, I think I can start really simply. Don't be like the cable companies. All right. How about we start with that? Now, here's my belief. My belief is that MSPs have succeeded because they innovated away from that model, right? Meaning they delivered a level of white glove service where a local business owner could say, you deliver service at a higher level than the cable company, so I'm doing business with you. And that innovation part to me is, I think, the most important part in this thought process. And that is, yes, we've innovated. Yes, we've done a lot of new things to deliver a better help desk experience, but are we continuing to innovate? And is that part of our mission to help exceed expectations by always thinking about every quarter, every year, what can we do differently in our help desk to drive a better customer experience? So that's what I think about. I'm always thinking about it in our own business at TimeZest, like how can we deliver service at a higher level? But MSPs are toiling with the same problem. And what I worry about a little bit is that we kind of get stuck in our ways. Like, okay, that's good enough. The help desk is running well. We're getting good CSAT ratings back if you use a tool like Smileback or something like that, right? And so we just kind of rest on our laurels a little bit. So what I use this as an opportunity to do is just think about what can you do at the end of the year here to reinvent your help desk. Not make it this tremendous reinvention, but just do something to upskill how you deliver support. So that's kind of my perspective on it. Chris, what are your thoughts there?
No, I 100% agree. It's very challenging in this industry because there's always moving parts. There's always an emergency. You feel like you're never going to be proactive. But what I found has been successful for us, especially in growing and scaling out our service desk, which started out at, 5-6 people, which is now, 19, was really small incremental changes throughout. Always be developing, always be forward thinking. And, because change is absolutely terrifying, right? Not just for our clients, when we're bringing, onboarding their technology and them. It's scary for everyone, and I think it's human nature to be that way or a little skeptical of it. But we found that small incremental changes throughout, just a little tweak here and there is like you can systematically do those and roll those out. People, team members love it. The clients love the enhancements. So I think it's just about doing that and scaling that out. I probably myself, in my role as the VP over the team, I think I'm about 3/4 out right now on small little changes that I want to be making. Some of those are monthly, some are quarterly, some are weekly. So I am, but I would say that's about how far I get to plan out. Again, if you wait until business slows down to be proactive and do it, it's like a roofer roofing their house in, the middle of winter. It just doesn't happen. You never see it. That's why, it happens in the summer.
Yeah, great. All right, so Seth, we've got an end user with us here, right? You want to put her on the spot?
Yeah, Brittany, I mean, you've been the end user of services, just like everybody on this call provides. Tell us about some of your experiences, having to request support for IT or to reaching out to help desks.
Yeah, well, I will say I recently changed my accounting software, and I just had an onboarding call with a platform called Xero last week. And it was a seamless scheduling experience. All that was totally fine. And I got on the call, and the woman Amber, first of all, she was like very upfront with me. She was like, "Hey, I'm here as your person for the next 90 days, and I will help you. You can reach out to me. You have unlimited access to me for 90 days. And then you're going to move on to our CSM team." So I thought, that was cool that she was managing my expectations from the start. But what was really great was she had done some research about me. She was like, "Oh, I see that you're a keynote speaker. Like, tell me a bit about that. You have a book." And so I was telling her a little bit about my business. She had done the research, and she said, "Are you aware of this competition we have going on right now where we're giving out basically free grants to small business owners?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And she said, "Oh, let me tell you about it." And she told me a little bit about it. And she said, "I really encourage you to enter. The deadline is at the end of the month. And I think you have a really great shot. And if our team picks you, you could get like tens of thousands of dollars." And I was like, "Great. Thank you so much for telling me about that." And then she expertly transitioned into talking about the product, showing me some things that I had done right, some things that I had done wrong. After the call, she sent me a really great recap that probably in many ways is, the template that she uses for every customer, but she personalized it with some of the things that we had talked about. She gave me the information about the contest. She told me she was excited to listen to the audiobook version of Creating Superfans. So that was a really, really great experience, to the fact that I was like, "Oh, I'm bummed that I only have you for like 87 more days." And she was like, "Don't worry about it. The team that you're going to transition to is great. And when it's time for you to make that transition, I'm going to be on a call with your CSM to make sure that it's a seamless transition." So I thought that was a really great experience, especially for a relatively low ticket platform. Like, I think I'm paying, I don't know, $30 a month or $40 a month. And obviously in the SaaS world, like that's a pretty low ticket thing. So I felt very much like they valued me as a customer, and I plan to be very loyal to them for a long time, because just to be totally transparent, with the company that I was using before, none of that. It was very much like, write us money, and like, here's a resource library if you need any help.
Oh, so I'm dying to know how that meeting got scheduled, Brittany. How did that go? Is it the old school scheduling ping pong, or did they have some technology in place to help make that seamless?
Absolutely not. Was it scheduling ping pong? I will tell you, I am the absolute worst. Like, if something is hard, I just don't do it. Like, I had 2 people today in my LinkedIn inbox reach out and were like, "Hey, just following up, like, are we still going to do this?" And one was somebody who wanted me on a podcast, and one was somebody who wanted to interview me for something. And both of the notes were from July. And I had completely, just like, my brain was like, nope. And I get so many social stuff and DM and email all the time, that if something is hard and I can't do it in that moment, I move on. And I'm like this with my personal life too, not just my business life. Like, I cannot call and ask you what time I'm going to get my hair cut. I cannot call and wait on the phone with your receptionist to schedule a dentist appointment or a dermatologist appointment. It has to be simple, because there's absolutely no need to have somebody do the ping pong of the scheduling back and forth. One of my biggest pet peeves in life is things that are inefficient. And I know that when people are spending their time on things that can and should be automated, it's bad for them too, like on the employee side, like low morale of like, "Oh, I can't believe I'm emailing somebody the 4th time about this stupid meeting." Like, we have the technology, it exists. So absolutely, it was something that I scheduled. She sent me a link. I can't remember if she was using Calendly or HubSpot. I know it wasn't TimeZest, but I wish it had been, because clearly you guys can add tons of value that some of the other non-specialized scheduling apps aren't even thinking about.
Yeah, and this is clearly a subject that we like very much, right? Is using tools to enhance that client experience. And a common objection I've heard, not just with our tool, but kind of any tool that you put in front of the client. I've worked for Cloud Radio before this. These kind of tools that we put in front of clients is, you go, "Well, no. I'm white glove. I like to provide a high level of service for my clients. So I don't use tools like that." And what would you say to people, kind of opening out of the floor, that feel that, using these tools somehow diminishes their level of service.
I would say one person's white glove is another person's white handcuffs.
Interesting.
There are lots of people like me who are like, that's fine. If you're not going to make it easy for me to do things the way I want to go, the way I want to do it, I will go somewhere else. And you absolutely do not have to force your way of doing things onto your customers. To the extent that you can follow that platinum rule that we talked about and make it possible for people to choose, do that. Like if you've got a few people that you know are never gonna, do things digitally. I was just doing I call it intentional experience design, like basically like a hardcore like consulting crash course with a client on Monday, and they are they're in the insurance space, and they were saying they've got some customers who are like never ever gonna do a digital application. It's gonna be paper, they're gonna fax it, and they're like, you know what, we've made the decision as a company that we're going to go ahead and continue to allow that, like basically until these people die. Like we will continue to feed the dinosaurs, but moving forward, no more dinosaurs. Like moving forward, you have to work the way that we do. And so now they're being very intentional when they onboard clients to say, this is the way it is. And if somebody says, oh, well, Joe doesn't do it that way, it's like, well, that's because when Joe signed up, it was possible to do it that way, but now it's not. So I think it's also about making a decision from a corporate standpoint of if you're going to, have that white glove concierge, is that what your customers actually want? Or does it drive them crazy that they can't do it themselves at 11 o'clock at night? And B, asking yourself, okay, is this something that we should begin to sunset, grandfather in the people who are clients already, but know that every single person moving forward is going to be encouraged to do this thing that is more effective, more efficient, and a lot easier for everyone.
When we started TimeZest, there's so much you don't know about how the product is going to be accepted in a community, right? And I'll brag a little, and I'm bragging for the team. We are the #1 rated product in the ConnectWise marketplace. Okay, right. We have like 114 reviews. We've only been out for about 3.5 years, and we are so fortunate to have raving fans in our customer base. But what matters a lot to us is that we're building raving fans at the end client level too. So like from Chris's perspective, Chris, when you think about this, what are your thoughts here? What are you hearing from your customers? I get a lot of this anecdotally. I want to capture it and bottle it up. But what do you hear from your customers when they use our product?
It really comes down to, it's just easy to use. It's straightforward. It's easy. It's there. It's quick. It's not having to open up a bunch of calendars and pull them and go back, the ping pong thing back and forth. I mean, the cost time of that is a whole different animal to discuss, on how cost it is in your time of going back and forth. But what we hear generally from our clients, the end users are absolutely, it's just easy to use. It's like 3 clicks, and it sends the calendar invite, and it's, it's just easy to use, and it just works. It just works. I won't tell you.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, enough about us. We probably should get into Q&A, huh, Seth?
Yeah, and again, feel free to drop your questions down below. We have definitely a couple to get started with, but feel free to drop some down. One of the most common questions I got just leading up to this, and people reaching out, asking for the recording, but things they were excited about, was a question, and this I got a variety of these questions about quarterly business reviews, TBRs, right? Like it's a thing that almost I'm sure every MSP has been told to do, and a thing that when tried, a lot of MSPs run into trouble, right? They sit down, they show their customer a bunch of reports and things of that nature, and surprise, the customer gets very bored and sometimes never wants to do it again. And so I guess we start the Q&A section off on that about TBRs, QBRs. What are some strategies to make those more effective and actually result in more new business rather than a frustrated, bored client?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to start with me?
We can start with whoever. Let's go
to Chris first.
Yeah.
I think, for us, we fell into, a while back, we fell into to the role of let's look at the reports, and you just watch their eyes glass over and their eyes get, like that Monsters Inc. movie where the little girl's just sitting there trying to hold her eyes open. She's doing the slow blinks. And then what we found out is when we really pivoted our QBR, EBR, TBRs, when we really pivoted those to more of a forward looking, if you have the right point of contact, they want a plan. They want to think, hey, we're going to be, where do we want to be in 3 years? Here's where we're at. Let's reverse engineer that from here. And let's lay out that plan. And before you know it, your sales pipeline's being built out, and you have a customer on the other end who you feel that is a true partner, and you guys are partnering together and you're going to weather this storm for at least the next 3 years because you got this plan. That's really what we've seen. I think most people have fallen into let's look at the reports and the recap. That's all, backwards looking. Let's forward think.
Yeah. I definitely, the people I've seen do it best, they see it as like a listening exercise, right? I mean, if they're spending their whole time talking, something's gone wrong. It's much more, as you say, right, about actually providing solutions to real business problems that they have. That's what they're there for. And I think you're probably a pretty strange person if you can sit down and look at like some server logs and see how many attacks were blocked and get excited about that, right? But any business owner, when it comes down to how we can grow your business faster, how we can help you make more money, who doesn't want to listen to that as a business owner? So yeah, I've always found useful to kind of stay in that domain.
Yeah. And I think, Michelle said in the chat that she's a super fan of Joe at TimeZest because she always leaves conversations feeling better, smarter, and more pleased. So
yeah, shout out Joe. She's our chief super fan maker.
But what it sounds like Joe knows is, she's embracing that only 3 types of experiences, right? Am I leaving somebody better, worse, or the same? And if you look at your QBR as an opportunity to, yes, listen, that is so important. I've got an entire chapter in the book about active listening, the steps to actively listening, what it means, why it matters. But you should be the smartest person they know when it comes to technology, when it comes to trends, when it comes to the future. If you frame it not just as, hey, this QBR is about what has happened in your business for the past quarter, but also what you need to know about AI and technology and, things that are happening from a regulatory standpoint or industry standpoint moving into the next quarter, then not only does somebody look forward to learning at that meeting because they know it's going to add value and they're going to leave it better than they showed up to it, but it gives you the opportunity to keep that relationship fresh and be the first person that they think of when they think of technology. Because again, if you want to earn those referrals, if you want them to be thinking of you when the opportunity arises, you need to stay top of mind. And it's a lot easier to do that when you know that you're going to have a valuable interaction with them every 3 months than if you only talk to them like when something goes wrong or once a year.
Yeah, so I have something here. Yeah, obviously Joe's amazing. She's been a member of our team from very early on. She is great. And the culture that we try to create here, we do it in what I would call kind of a unique way. I'm not saying that MSPs should replicate this, but it gives you a chance to kind of think about how you can create similar culture. And so as an example, we're a month-to-month SaaS solution, right? So a customer can leave us at any moment. And I quite frankly wouldn't want it any other way. And the reason for that is because that means that every day when we show up to work as a team, we have to deliver an amazing experience. We can't just sit here and hope that they'll, count on them paying us because they're in a contract for multiple years. We can't be the cable company, right? We have to treat our customers in a way that exceeds their expectations so that every single month they want to renew their service with us. And that comes from a product perspective and what Jason does to build product and what our team on the product side does. It comes from our customer success side and just the way we try to approach the world, such as, I've worked in technology now since 1999, and I've intentionally stayed in the software arena for a reason. I've found just tremendous value in it. You can build things from scratch. You've got a blank canvas every day you come into work, and I just get super excited by that. But a lot of times our technology peers will think about bugs as something that should just be in an application. Like bugs just exist. They hang around and we just have to live with them and we just have to figure out how to coexist with bugs. If you look at how Jason approaches it and how I think about the world, we look at it as though if there's a bug, why aren't we squashing it? Why are we doing new development and building extra features onto the house if there's bugs in the walls? Like, knock the bugs out, then we can work on building an extension to the house. And if you watch what we do every single day, if something gets reported, it's rarely in our application for more than 48 hours. Now, we can say that maybe because we're small and we don't maybe have some of the complexity of other solutions, but even at this stage of our maturity, I've seen plenty of software companies treat that differently and think about the world differently. And so it's just for me, and as we think about all of our businesses, how can we be different? How can we always be thinking about how to create an environment where people come to work and everyone just snaps into the culture we need them to have and the way that they need to think about how we're delivering support and how we kind of look at the world.
Okay. Well, moving on to the next question, Terry Allen has a question for Brittany. We've talked so much about gaining new clients, but he asks, I'm curious if you can offer some wisdom on if you were to offboard a customer or lose them, how would you handle that to keep it positive and possible for a future reconnection?
Yeah, well, this is a really great question. Thank you for asking, Terry. Again, from like a selfish standpoint, one of the reasons that the stakes are so high here is because this is someone who is out there who can talk firsthand about having been your customer, who is an influencer, who does have a network of people. So you absolutely want to leave them in the best light possible. So a few things that you can do is make sure that you build enough time into the process to where you know you're setting them up for continued success. Everything that you need to do to help them transition, whether they're going to a different service provider or whether they're going to, take things in-house, make sure that you've got checklists to help ensure that above all they are taken care of, and remind them many times of, hey, we're going to do everything we can to make this a smooth process, because the thing that matters most to us is that your business continues uninterrupted. We want to make sure that there's absolutely no interruption in your business. The same way that you want to be super transparent in onboarding and show them what the steps look like and everything that's going to happen, do the same thing in reverse for offboarding. Have those checklists, have those things to say, these are the things that we're going to cover off on. Then make it a point to follow back up with them, not because you're trying to get their business back, but because you want them to know that you care about them still. They're not like dead to you. This is not a relationship that has ended. So make sure that they still get a birthday card that next year. Give them a call 60 days after they're officially offboard and say, hey, I just wanted to call and check in. Like, how is everything going? Is there anything you need us to do? Is there anything that you've realized in the past few months that like you wish we had talked about, or your new provider is unsure about? Like, keep that going.
Just be sure to not make that call at 3 a.m. when you're drunk and tell them that you still love them. That can get awkward. But yeah, that is incredibly good advice.
Starts with you up.
Yeah, keep it above board, keep professional, then you're in the clear for sure.
Well, I bet, Chris, you've probably experienced this where someone has potentially left you thinking the grass is greener somewhere else, and then has come back. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So for us, we've always approached it as a high level of integrity, right? If we have to make sure that clients and customers are a fit for us as much as we are a fit for them. And we may not be a fit for every company out there, and that's just the reality of it. And so, there's two different ways. Sometimes, when you have those offboardings that you want to handle with a high level of integrity, I approach it every single offboarding with a high level of integrity, and so does my team, because you just never know. It could be they're whatever the reason is that they're leaving. You always want to leave that door open for them to come back. We just had 2 or 3 of them in the last year and a half that have left and come back for various different reasons. Maybe it was pricing, maybe it was a bad experience they had with one part. But Brittany, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to that offboarding process. It's really about continuing to work with them. And if we at the end of the day care about people, so our mission statement is helping our clients be more successful through the effective use of technology. And the word clients is before technology for a reason. And at the end of the day, if we can't provide them the support that they feel that they need to run their business, make their business successful, we just want them to have good support and good experience for their business. And if that's not with us, then we will absolutely assist any way we can at a high level of integrity to transition you to another provider.
Yeah,
And
it's
I think
professional
also-
courtesy too, right? As an MSP, we've all been in the situation where that last MSP is just handing us off as bad as possible, for sure.
Well, and like you were saying before, Seth, getting clarity on the types of customers that you want so that you can get great new customers without having to hire more people because you're offboarding some of those clients that you maybe don't want. I agree with everything Chris said wholeheartedly. And I also think if there is a client that you're offboarding because they're not a great fit, if you do a great job, if you have that high level of integrity and you're helping them, you don't have to be afraid to say, hey, as I think you saw, where our sweet spot really is helping businesses that, and then, the parameters for whatever it is for you. So you can say, if you happen to come across anybody who's looking for an MSP that they know they can trust and is going to do a great job, that is a better fit for what we do, I would really appreciate you sending them our way. And then that way it's, I mean, this is like, I can't even believe that I'm saying this and this is on recording. My high school boyfriend who I loved and was amazing, and we eventually broke up, and it turns out, surprise, was gay. And I was like, it's not me, it's him, and I love him, and I would never not recommend, like if some dude that I thought would be a great fit for him was like, so hey, what about this guy? I would be like, oh my God, absolutely, he is amazing and the absolute best person ever. Like, you should totally go out with him. No hard feelings, right? So just because somebody isn't a perfect fit for you, if you're offboarding them as a client, don't be afraid to let them know what the right client for you looks like, because if you do it with a high level of integrity, if you do it in a way that leaves them better than you found them and adds value, then there's not going to be hard feelings, and they're going to be that much more likely to, when they come across somebody who is a good fit, send them your way.
Yeah, sometimes that offboarding feedback can let you know that you're on the right track. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to change anything. It wasn't necessarily you.
It feels like it becomes this trap, right? Oh, they're not paying us any more money, so why should we lift a finger to really make this easy for them? Because we're not making money here. And I think for me, it reminds me of the server that did an amazing job throughout the entire meal, but takes forever to bring the check. Like, can you please just give me the check? This is killing me, And so if you can just keep our wits about us through the end and just be above the board, and because I've just heard so many times where the keys to the castle are being held by some other service provider. It's just a common thing I hear in my peer groups a lot. It's just, Chris, you probably run into it 100 times, right? They just want to hang on to the keys. They're not letting go. They're not being helpful in any way. They'll maybe answer a question, but they're not going anywhere to help you find the pitfalls or the challenges with the handoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you've been on the reverse side of that and you put somebody else in their shoes, that's one of the things that drives me to approach these offboardings with such a high level of integrity. I've been on the other side of that where they're like, well, ask us what you want to know. That's the classic, okay, can we get a lay of the land? We're going to be onboarding them, over the next 30 days. It's like, well, what do you want to know? And we're like, well, everything, and then they're like, well, you got to ask me questions. It comes to this whole, kind of back and forth thing that you try and avoid, but by being on the other side of that is that's one of my primary drivers, mine and my team's drivers to approaching these with such a high level of integrity. We've been on the other side of that, so if you're going to be a server, and one of your, they just take forever to bring the check, it's like, as a server, you're probably gonna be like, I've been in that position before. I'm going to start handing out these checks, maybe not with their meal, but but yeah, I mean, it depends on your table turnover, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's so important, for a variety of reasons. I'll actually go into that later. I've got a thought at the end there. But moving on to Samantha Finley, who's thinking about slow elevators. And by the way, I'm from Winter Haven, about 10 minutes away from that Legoland resort. They are extremely charming, but After a while, as a local, you start to take the stairs, but but they are awesome. But you think about these slow elevators, at the MSP help desk, turnaround times, getting proposals out quickly, projects waiting on hardware, things of that nature. And you ask for some ideas for making these things less painful, like in the case of the disco elevator.
Yeah, well, thank you for the question, Sam. This is a great question, and definitely one Chris should speak to as well. But the fact that you listed them out is a great place to start. Because once you've got that list, it's a matter of getting your team to help you tackle each one at a time. So you say help desk turnaround times. Are you regularly auditing all of the requests that your help desk gets? And if they're getting a lot of the same ones, whether it's like, I forgot my password or whatever, is there a way to automate part of that response? Is there a way, whether it's through like a video that can be sent or something that's pulling from the resource library, like, is there something that you can either do to help make it more self-serve or quicker for the member of your team to respond on those? In terms of getting proposals out quickly, I got to be honest, like, the mark of an established business is one that can turn around proposals quickly. If you're not yet able to get proposals out quickly, it means because you have not given enough intentionality to the process. You need to take a break from working in your business and work on your business. You should be able to template at least 85% of every single proposal that you send out. For the things that you can't automate, you need to know what information that you need to make a decision about that piece. If you're not able to get proposals out quickly, it means that you're not being as efficient as you should, either because you haven't dialed your process in enough or you haven't studied the things that are repeatable. Because as an MSP, a huge percentage of what you do should be repeatable. It is templated. You're doing things for clients. So yes, there of course will be considerations about what is unique to each person's business, but not in a way to where you shouldn't be able to plug that information into a spreadsheet or figure out very quickly what that price is going to be to use that template to get it back. And I lost the question. So I know you asked about one third thing. Just rating on hardware. That one, again, just being as transparent as possible, letting people know, like if you have somebody who says like, hey, we placed the order, we'll get back to you, and then they don't hear from you for like 8 or 9 days, they can start to get frustrated. So knowing that you're going to check in with a client every now and then to say, hey, wanted to keep you updated, this is still on the way. Because it's taking this long, we're reaching out proactively to other providers to see if we can help you, but just wanted to let you know this is still on our radar. So you're, again, closing that mental loop in your customer's mind. They know they don't have to worry about it because they know you are worrying about it. You're on top of it, so they don't have to be.
You took my steam there. You knocked it out of the park. It comes back to setting and managing those expectations. And if there's two different ways of looking at this, from an MSP point of view. Are you being told the turnaround times are too long, or is your perception the turnaround times are too long? And I think back to our Evolve group. If you're comparing yourself to another MSP, you don't know if that MSP is doing well or they're not doing well. So it's almost a disservice to compare yourself to their MSP. In light of transparency, ask your clients, ask your customers, say, hey, was our turnaround time on this? And they, again, back to the humility, high level of integrity is, solicit that feedback. But, this may not be, an issue. It may be your perception is the issue here. And then look for ways, as I mentioned before, you can make those small incremental advances. Brittany, like I said, she knocked it out of the park. You should be able to templatize everything when it comes to a quote, a proposal. We have a solution library that's basically a scope of work, our hours estimate, our bill of materials, and it's fill in the blanks and we send it off. A couple things, because infrastructures are different, so it's a couple things here and there that you want to modify, but a lot of that should be templatized. And as far as hardware, the hardware thing is with COVID and everything, that's just a beast to tackle on its own. Yeah. You don't know, it's getting a lot better because I think we're catching up. We always provide our clients with an option. If, we have a switch that's going to be, 60, 90 days out because it's not an inventory, we give them the option to, hey, but this next switch, as the upgrade is only 6 days out. So if you want to spend the extra, $1,200, $1,400, $1,600, whatever it is, we can get this one here in 6 days and get that in. But we give them that option, again, in transparency, setting and managing expectations.
Absolutely. That's sort of an aha moment that I had when dealing with clients in general, is just putting on their eyeballs and how they see you. It's really hard for someone to evaluate an MSP, right? There aren't MSP review sites or like a any sort of like Angie's List, right, for MSPs. Oftentimes they just have what they see right in front of them of how to evaluate you, right? And as Brittany says, right, like how fast you get your proposal out. That's going to be key criteria in how they evaluate your response time. Shouldn't be, it's just a sales time, right? It's not your support team, but it is what they have to actually view and see you. And same thing goes for your help desk. You got to think about those contact points and really put yourself in their seat and look at yourself in that from that direction. It can really help to figure out what matters most. Well, we've done 86 minutes here. I wanted to kind of close on one question for everybody.
I think Thomas, Seth, real quick, I think Thomas had one question that just dropped in there right now.
Oh, sure.
Thomas, going back over the neutral and the positive. So I think everything that Chris has said about setting expectations, it is impossible to exceed your customers' expectations if you don't understand what they are. So knowing what people are expecting, so that first there is alignment. If you feel that you're starting to lose a client, you want to talk to them as quickly as you can. You want to get time on the books. Going back to, and in the book, I talk much more about this, the supermodel, SUPER, understanding your customer story. There's a whole framework and a whole series of questions I have there for uncovering what they're struggling with, what they're really looking for, like what does success look like for them? What's the transformation that's going to help them the most, with scripts and questions and things like that. But if you feel like you're starting to lose a client, you want to get on the phone with them as quickly as you can to find out whether or not that is the case, and be prepared to actively listen, and know going in, is this a client you want to save or not? Like, is this the ideal client that you want to have? Because if you are losing the client, is it something that's going to be like mutually beneficial for both of you guys? So again, that goes back to like starting with your story. Who are the people that you want to hit it out of the park for versus who are the people that you're like, yeah, if we like really need to have that revenue, I might take that on as a path to the end where I'm trying to get. So that's what I would say. A, make sure you know which clients you want to keep, which ones you want to lose. B, get on the phone with them as soon as possible. There's an entire chapter in the book where I talk about the myth of the customer always being right, and the idea of how it is better for everyone if you do lose some of your customers, and sort of the most graceful and respectful way to do that, to make that shift.
And it really starts, I'll take that one step further. It really starts with creating a target customer profile. You want to know for your MSP, you can't scale really until you have a target customer profile. And not every customer, every client's going to fit that. And that's okay. Chances are, if you're at a point of losing that client, it could be a few different things. It could be you just weren't as engaged with them as they would like. Either way, at the end of the day, the goal has to be to get them the best support possible. Using your high level of integrity, get that best support possible for them. And if that's not with you, it goes a long way to facilitate them to someone else. We take the mode of partnering with other MSPs in the area, because all of us work differently. And I partner is a loose term in that way, but if someone we know it, the way that maybe they're selling block hour engagements, and this is what this customer client wants, we'll help facilitate. Hey, we know it's not just releasing them back to industry, as I call it, right? It's not just letting them go. It's about transitioning.
Bye,
them
good luck.
Yeah. Bye, Birdie.
Well, yeah, they say that, right? Like if you truly love something, let it fly away when it returns to you, right? But that is really true.
And if you truly hate someone, make it easy for them to transition to that.
Really let them go, right?
Can't stand.
Yeah. But if you
always have that one too.
Yeah, if you are classy on the way out, right, and they do come back, then you have them, right? You really have a great client at that point, because they've seen what else is out there and they know you're doing your job right. So what I wanted to end on real quick, because we're reaching 90 minutes here. I just want to go around the panel real quick and just get your guys' thoughts on what the most important thing. We talked about a lot of stuff today. What do you think the most important thing is for MSPs to take away from this? Start with you, Chris.
I would say the super acronym there. The story, understand your customer's story. That platinum rule, exceed the expectations, and then rinse and repeat. Right. That was the big takeaway here. And it's just if you do that and that's at your core, it's pretty challenging to fail. It really is.
How about you, Gerwai?
Yeah, for me, it's evolving and maturing your service operations at all times. We have to do that here at TimeZest. Your business should be doing it too. It's a no-brainer for me.
And you, Brittany?
So one of the things that I talk about a lot on stages and in my book is the idea of before, during, and after. So a lot of times we spend a disproportionate amount of attention on like, okay, they're our client. All right, they're not going to be our client anymore. You've got to also like elongate that experience in your mind to focus on the before and the after, specifically onboarding and offboarding, because that is absolutely as much of your customer's experience as the stuff that happens during. And the reality is, if you screw up onboarding and you have somebody who's now like, this is gonna suck, it's gonna make their perception of the next year much worse than it is. So you win your renewals not in month number 11 and a half, but like month 0. So thinking about how you want to differentiate yourself, what your superpower can be, and how you're changing things from like sucking or just being like fine into things that feel easy and great in onboarding. And then if it comes to offboarding, so that you can continue to maintain that reputation as someone who operates with integrity and efficiency.
And for me, it's really just the don't think white glove means working harder and not smarter, right? Put yourself in the client's perspective. What matters to them? And oftentimes it's just they want their issue solved as fast as possible, right? And so don't necessarily inject yourself just for the sake of injecting yourself. Use tools, be smart when you can. So that concludes.
It's a great motto.
Yeah,
Use tools, be smart.
Just coining them out. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. As I mentioned, you can email me, Seth at TimeZest.com, for a copy of Brittany's excellent book, Creating Superfans. And we're also going to be at DattoCon next week, booth 52. If anybody is coming down to Miami, we'll be there in white linen suits, smoking cigars. Not really. We'll just be in TimeZest t-shirts, but we're going to have a good time. I think it might be the last DattoCon. Who knows? But we're going to go make sure we go out with a bang there. So,
and I have an ask. If you do get a copy of the book from Seth, which you totally should, and you love it, please leave a review on Amazon. Those are so incredibly important, especially for first-time authors like me. They help tell all the algorithms that it's a great book, and they help get it in front of people who might not otherwise hear from me. So I so greatly appreciate every single review and every single rating. So if you do like the book and you have a chance, I would be honored if you would take the time to do that. And if you get the book and hate it, you can also leave a review and just lie. Like, that's fine too.
Best policy. And David, yeah, send your address when you email me, so the right mailing address, so I know where to send it. But again, thank you everybody for joining. We will have a recording of this up on YouTube tomorrow. If you want to share it with your colleagues, feel free to do so. It'll be up there tomorrow morning. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Great stuff.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Take care.
Logan. Bye.